What's up, guys? Hope you're all having a good day. Before I get into the video, I'm going to start by explaining what this video is going to be about. So I do this thing, right? This series, whatever you want to call it, called So-and-so Fighter versus Everybody. That might not be the best way to explain it, but essentially is a thing where I talk about a certain fighter's chances against the top fighters in and around their division. For example, I've done one on Boots Ennis, where I spoke about Ennis's chances, how I think Ennis would do if he fought Spence, Ugas, Crawford, Furman, etc. And I've done one for Canelo as well, where I've spoke about Canelo's chances if he fought any the top guys at 168 and 175, how I think he would match up against those guys, how I think he would do against those guys. And that one's called Canelo versus Everybody. The one on Ennis that I did is called Boots Ennis versus Everybody. So yeah, hopefully you get the gist. And I'll leave the link for those two videos in the description as well. So yeah, guys, after this video, check those videos out. So I'm going to be doing something similar here with Shakur Stevenson, talking about Shakur's chances against the top guys at 130 and at 135. I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm also going to be touching on the infamous sparring session that he had with Haney back when they were teenagers, and kind of giving like a post-sparring review and talking about the improvements that both fighters have made since that sparring, especially for Shakur. And lastly, I'm just going to be touching on just a little bit on Shakur's overall evolution as a fighter and the progress and improvements he's made since he's turned pro. Okay, so let's start off with Shakur's chances against his rivals and how he matches up with each one of them. Starting off with Ryan Garcia, I think he beats Ryan Garcia in a decision. Garcia's got fast hands, he's got a very good power. He's faster and he's got more power than Shakur. So if he catches him, like, it could be sleepy time, it could be night for Shakur. But I don't see him catching him with anything clean. Well, I mean, I don't see him catching him with clean shots like that. I mean, with enough clean shots. I mean, like, because Shakur's got a remarkable defense. He's defensively slick as well. And Ryan Garcia, like, although he's fast, he doesn't really have that knack for landing a lot of clean, consistent headshots against a top level fighter from what I've seen so far. Do you know what I mean? Because look at his fight with Luke Campbell. Yes, he knocked Luke Campbell out with a great body shot, brilliant shot, but he was struggling to land headshots against Campbell. And Campbell maintained a tight high guard and not too much got through that guard. So Campbell's defense is solid, but it's not as good as Shakur's. So I see Shakur outpointing Ryan. He's better defensively, he's more skilled, he's got better timing, more punch variety. I mean, better defense, better counter puncher, can fight on the inside better. So just overall, he's just an overall much better fighter than Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. The only advantage that Ryan has is speed and power. So yeah, I see Shakur outpointing Ryan Garcia. Let's move on to Oscar Valdez. I don't see Shakur versus Valdez as a close fight. I see Shakur dominating him. I've not been too impressed with Valdez. He's a decent fighter, but I've not been like that impressed with him. I mean, like, from what I've seen of him so far. If some of you guys disagree, explain why in the comments. But yeah, like, I see Shakur comfortably beating Valdez. Now, what about your boy Tank Davis? I think that Tank versus Shakur is a close fight. Tank is obviously the much bigger puncher. That's clear, that's evident. Tank is one of the biggest punchers in the sport, pound for pound. I mean, we saw he knocked out Barrios, which Keith Thurman couldn't do. Yes, he fought Thurman with 10-ounce gloves and he fought Tank with 8-ounce gloves, but still, that's still impressive that he knocked out a guy at a welterweight. A welterweight, Keith Thurman, a career welterweight, couldn't knock out. So it shows how hard Tank hits. And Tank might be faster in terms of hand speed, but it's close, I would say. I think foot speed again is close. Maybe Tank has faster feet, maybe Shakur, I don't know. But Shakur definitely has the better footwork and the more educated feet. And Shakur's distance control is phenomenal. A lot better than Tank's. But Tank might be the more athletically gifted. I think he's also a bit bigger than Shakur. So it's an interesting fight, but I think Shakur would win in a close competitive fight. Lomachenko now, I think Shakur loses to Loma right now. Loma is extremely skilled, vastly experienced in the amateurs and the pros, best footwork in the game, very athletic as well, great head movement. Yeah, he's just a complete fighter, and Shakur is very, very good as well, but I just think Loma will have a bit too much for him. yeah, I just think Loma will have a bit too much for him. So I see Loma beating Shakur. I see that being an excellent, high-paced, high-action, and an entertaining fight, but a technical chess match. I don't see that being a war. I see that being a very, very technical chess match, but not a boring chess match though. Like a like an exciting chess match, like an exciting chess match with action. Yeah, I mean that's what I see that fight being. But yeah, in terms of Devin the Dream Haney now, in terms of him, this is a difficult one because I think Haney's a much bigger. Like Haney's much bigger, and he's definitely physically stronger than Shakur, and he's just as athletic, like just as fast in terms of hand speed, foot speed. Do you know what I mean? If not more, like if not faster, he might even be a little bit faster than Shakur. I think. Yeah, Haney might be a bit faster, and he hits harder as well, obviously because he's bigger. So yeah, those are just some of the advantages that Haney has over Shakur. But Shakur is better schooled, more technical, more skilled. So I think Shakur could just outbox Haney for 12 rounds. But then again, though, if Haney uses his size and strength, he could just bully Shakur in there. But I don't see like Haney having the offensive creativity, like the punch variety, the advanced punch setup, etc. I mean, to land enough consistent blows to stop Shakur. But he could intimidate Shakur with his power. I mean, and force Shakur to fight negative, which he could win, and therefore like him forcing to Shakur to fight negative. I mean, could enable Haney to win some rounds from somewhat effective aggression. So yeah, like because I do see him landing some good shots on Shakur if that fight happens. I do see Haney landing some good shots because he has got good punch technique. He is fast, so on and so forth. So if that fight happens, I think either guy could win. Either guy could win, but I would edge with Shakur though because I think I think he'll win. I think Shakur would win, but I'm not too confident on that though. But I would edge with Shakur to win, and that kind of segues into the sparring session now that I was going to talk about, which they had around 6 years ago. So Haney was 16, he was still in the amateurs, and Shakur was 18. He was about to go to the Olympics, so just before the Olympics, I believe. And I'm going to be pretty much talking about what happened in that sparring, kind of doing like a post sparring review, basically a post sparring review of that sparring session, and it's not going to include footage. So if you wanna see the actual sparring video, I'll put the link of it I'll put the link of it in the description below. But yeah, let me get on to my post sparring review now. So I believe they sparred twice. Yeah, they sparred twice because there's a sparring video of one session where Shakur was wearing a red head guard and one where he was wearing a white one. So and he was wearing different clothes on each one, so they must have sparred twice. But both were in a somewhat close time span. So I'm pretty much just going to be talking about the one where Shakur wore the red white guard, that one. But anyway, let me start my post sparring review now. So throughout this sparring session, you see Shakur control that distance every time Haney creeps forward. Every time Haney steps forward, he tries to come forward. Shakur takes little tiny steps back. Do you know what I mean? Not too big, but just enough to maintain that range. I mean, and just enough to be slightly like out of range by inches. And Shakur probes with his jab. Do you know what I mean? Too. Sometimes he just sticks it out there to measure the distance so you can kind of get an idea of how close or how far Haney is. And that's something that was working really effectively for Shakur because it allows you to set up shots and things like that. Yeah. Like it allows you to set up your offense. And Haney, he was trying to apply pressure, and he was given different looks, but he wasn't punching off of each of those looks. So Shakur could kind of anticipate Haney's attacks well. I mean, because of the fact that Haney wasn't punching off all the looks or wasn't punching off the majority of the looks. But Haney now, though, that's something that he's improved on because Haney now, he punches off different looks more. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? More than he did back then when he was 16. So that's something I'll say that Haney's improved on. With Shakur, though, one thing he was doing very well in that sparring session I saw is that he was maneuvering Haney's guard during the combinations. For example, he threw a soft left hook to the head and kind of moved Haney's like left glove. I mean, kind of like moved it and kind of tried to like subtly pin it to his head, to Haney's head, and so that it allows him to throw like a powerful right hook to the body. I hope I didn't say I hope I didn't say soft left hook then. If I did, I meant soft right hook. So yeah, Shakur threw a soft right hook to the head first, and what after he threw it, like he kind of like pinned Haney's left hand to his head. Do you know what I mean? So that his body would be exposed, and so that that will enable Shakur to throw like a powerful right hook to the body. So yeah, very very clever stuff that Shakur was doing from back then before he was even professional. So yeah, and that was around minute. If you go to 1 minute and 29 seconds into the round 2 version of the video, because there'll be 2 links that I'm going to put in the comments for the sparring session. One of them will have the title of the sparring and it'll say round 1. One of them will, and that won't have any sound. That won't have any sound. The other one will say round 2. I'm talking about the second one, the one that says round 2. You go to 1 minute and 29 seconds into that one, you'll see what I'm talking about there. About him throwing the right hook, pinning Haney's hand to his head, and then that paving the way for the right hook to the body. What Shakur, they're very smart. Another point where he pins his hand to Haney's. Well, let me rephrase. Something else that Shakur did that was really smart as well is that he pinned his hand to Haney's head to blind and distract him, and then he threw like a really fast 4-5 punch combination. So yeah, like very sophisticated offense from Shakur Stevenson there, even from back then in during that sparring session. Very sophisticated offense in that sparring. And one thing I'll say about Haney as well is that his jab has improved so much. His jab has improved so much from that sparring. I mean, because his jab now is faster, crisper, more snap on it. I mean, so Haney's definitely improved in his jab. Shakur, I would say he's improved with his head movement in the pocket, because in that sparring, like there was points in that sparring session where one thing he wasn't doing as much in that sparring was he wasn't really moving his head in the pocket. Do you know what I mean? Especially in regards to bending at the waist. He wasn't doing that here. And so when he was at close range with Haney, do you know what I mean? That's where he was getting caught more. When he was at long range, he wasn't really getting caught that much. But when he goes to close range, that's when he was getting caught more. So that's something that that was a weakness of Shakur back then, from what I saw in that sparring at least. Whereas Shakur now, especially if you look at the fight when he had against Herring, in the pocket, he's dipping low, he's bending at the waist. Do you know what I mean? So that's something that clearly Shakur has worked on, is his head movement in the pocket. He's always had a good defense, even in that sparring session. Don't get it twisted. His head movement and defense in that sparring session with Haney was very good. But I'm just talking about specifically when he gets at really close range. He could move it. He could have moved his head a little bit more, but clearly, like I said, that's something that he's improved on. Because I saw a lot more of that when he fought Herring. And this session, like, it showed me that Shakur's IQ is on a higher level than Haney's at that point. At that point, at least it was, and I think it still is. And it's now, even now, it still is. So yeah, like he was outboxing Haney in that sparring session, definitely. Haney, like I said, Haney's improved his punch technique. Do you know what I mean? Since then, he's improved his punch technique, his ability to throw off different looks and angles. His jab is more effective and faster. Whereas Shakur, over the years, like he's improved his counter punching ability. Like in that sparring session, he wasn't countering a lot. He was countering at times, but his counter punching is even better now. I mean, and he's always had a good defense, Shakur, like I said, but his defense is even sharper now. And yes, I know sparring isn't everything. Sparring doesn't, just because someone dominates another in sparring, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would win in the fight. I mean, sometimes it does, but a lot of the time as well, it doesn't. And you don't always know what other factors were in place prior to that sparring. For example, you don't know if one guy was fresh and the other wasn't. Do you know what I mean? And that could have affected how sparring went. And you might be more like, sometimes you have different types of sparring. You might have more technical sparring where you're working on different things. For example, one guy might be going easy on the other for a specific reason. Do you know what I mean? One guy might not be throwing any shots because they want to work on defense. I mean, I could go on and on, but you get the point. Sparring doesn't tell you the full picture. On sparring, there's different types of sparring where you work on different things, and that. But with this particular sparring session, though, it showed each fighter's potential, and sparring in general, it shows your potential. That's one thing. One thing I'll say about sparring. Doesn't always mean that the person will win in the fight. The person that gets the better sparring doesn't always mean that the person that gets the better at the sparring will win in the fight, but it shows where your potential is at. That's what I say about sparring. Sparring in general. And yeah, but anyway, I could go on and on, but you get the point. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys thought of the sparring session. Watch that video if you haven't seen it, and yeah, like let me know if you want to see more videos like this, videos where I do like videos where I do post sparring reviews. If you want to see more post sparring reviews, I mean, like let me know. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the comment section, because things like this, like it's always important to get feedback from your audience. So yeah, let me know if you want to see post sparring reviews, and let me know if you want to see more uh fighter versus everybody videos. I mean, where I break down the fighters' chances against their rivals. Let me know if you want to see more of that as well. But that's it. That's it for this video, and until next time.